All right, great, thanks.
All right, good morning, everybody. I want to give just a minute for everybody to get logged in and connected to the audio. I do want to welcome you all to turn on your cameras. The best way for us to get to know you is by seeing your face with your name and your company. Again, I'm going to give everybody just 1 minute to get logged in and connected. All right. Thank you for joining us today, everybody, for our Women in Business Committee. My name is Kirby Davis, and I am the Membership Services Associate here at the Chamber of Commerce of the Palm Beaches. And today we have Caroline Villanueva, South Florida External Affairs Manager for Florida Crystals, where she is responsible for projects pertaining to policy, economic development, and community relations in Palm Beach County. Caroline has worked in an agricultural industry for nearly a decade. Caroline is the proud daughter of Peruvian immigrants. Caroline received her Master's of Science in Public Policy and Management from the Heinz School at Carnegie Mellon University and undergraduate business degree from the University of Miami. Caroline is the company's board member to the Central Palm Beach County and Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, the Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce, and the Ann Norton Sculpture Garden. She is also a board member of the Lake Okeechobee Regional Economic Alliance of Palm Beach County and of Western Palm Beach County Farm Bureau. Caroline co-chairs the Glades Subcommittee of the Palm Beach County Strategic Hunger Relief Plan. She is a 2014 graduate of Leadership Palm Beach County and alum of the University of Florida's Wedgworth Leadership Institute of Agriculture and Natural Resources. Go Canes. So again, Caroline, thank you so much for joining us today. I do want to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded. So if you would please stay muted for the entire meeting unless asked otherwise. We will be doing self-introductions at the very end of everybody that is on the call. If you think of a question during the presentation, please feel free to go ahead and put that in the chat and we will get to all the questions at the end. We will also welcome you to turn on your microphones at the end of the presentation to ask your questions if you are comfortable. And with that being said, I am going to go ahead and hand it over to you, Caroline.
Great, thank you so much, Kirby, I appreciate it. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We're really excited to be here. It's been a long time that I've been at the Women in Business Committee, maybe 2 or 3 years now, and that was a really nice opportunity to be in person. And I guess that's the beauty of Zoom and the times we're in right now, because I'm actually on Zoom with everyone here in the 20 Mile Bend vicinity. I don't know if you all know, the EAA, 20 Mile Bend, the entrance into the Glades, are rice mills next door. So I've got a really amazing view right now. And I hope everyone does as well. But again, thank you everyone for joining us here today. I picked this topic. I thought about it a little bit. I've already been intrigued on the conversation of leadership and what that means for different people and the different roles and places, and even times in our lives that we're in. I'm a different person than I was when I was in my 20s, in my 30s, and so on, as I'm heading closer towards my 50s. And I'm sure that transformation will continue to happen with more experience and exposure and the different people, that we're going to be working with as time goes on. And I just wanted to share some thoughts. I have some references included in here as well. I'm going to suggest a book also too at the end that for those who want to, dive in deep a little bit more into this particular topic. But with that said, I just want to go ahead and lay out for you what we're going to be talking about for the next few minutes. And I just wanted to, ask you all a couple of questions before we really jump into the presentation. For those of you that may or may not have joined us when we did our farm tours, I would typically ask this question on the bus just to get a sense of, where you all have been or what you have seen or visited. So my first question, either by a raise of hand, here on the screen, or using the emoji with the hand, is, has anyone here been on a farm anywhere in the world? If you don't mind sharing your reaction to that, that'd be helpful to me. All right, awesome. A few people responding, very cool. Anyone been on a farm in Florida? Okay, nice. We still do have some reactions. And then specifically, has anyone been on a farm in the Everglades agricultural area here in the Glades, Western Palm Beach County? Okay, well, that's perfect opportunity to, invite everyone, the Women in Business Committee, to join us on a farm tour. We have been on hiatus, but we actually are planning towards resuming those in the next season. It's clearly I'm biased, which is part of our topic today, and happy to share with you that I think it's an awesome opportunity to see the agriculture production engine that is Western Palm Beach County, the back door, the backyard for many people. They may not realize that this part of the county is what makes Florida the top agriculture producing county in the state and east of the Mississippi River along the eastern seaboard. So this is very significant kind of production that happens between sugarcane, rice, and vegetables. My last question for everybody, just because I like to enjoy history, and I hope some of you have been sharing in some of this too. Pardon, has anyone here read A Land Remembered? And that's my last question, I promise. It's a terrific book. I didn't read it until I was an adult, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, and I've since read it. For those of you who've either grown up in Florida or you're new to Florida, it's a great way to get a sense of how Florida started, considering, the time beginning with the indigenous and the civilization from the cowboy crackers to, the Spaniards, and basically the development of Florida. As you read it, a lot of names will be familiar in it, like Pahokee for Pahokee, and other locations here in Florida. So, if you're looking for something to read and you just want to get a sense of historical fiction for Florida, but still enough truths in there to make some familiarity known, then that's a wonderful book to read. So we're also going to give you a little bit of an introduction of Florida Crystals, just so you understand, who we are and what we do. We'll get into the topic of inclusive leadership. And again, we extend an invitation to each and every one of you to visit us in the EAA. There's no cost to you, only time. We provide transportation and meals throughout the day. And it's a super outdoor experience. So we started at Osceola. For those of you who have been to Pahokee or Lake Okeechobee, it's just about maybe a 10-minute drive from Pahokee in 1960. So we're actually celebrating our 60th crop this particular season. Normally we are, yes, I know, it's very exciting. As a part of it, before the pandemic, we typically had these pre-harvest employee recognition type events. Because of the pandemic, we weren't able to do that in person, but we did go through and identify 170 employees that have over 30 years of service with Florida Crystals. So I think that's a real testament to the company, to the work ethic, to the team building, to the cohesion that occurs in our company. And really a great majority of that are employees that work at the places that are depicted in this picture right here. At Osceola, at Okeechobee, at Sugar Farms. So there's a diversity of careers, a diversity of people, and it's just been a wonderful opportunity that despite these challenging times, to know that this is our 60th crop has really helped move things forward for us. These are various locations. So I am where it says the Ag Center of Excellence and Rice Mill, right there towards the middle of the screen. You all can see we're about 45 minutes away from downtown West Palm Beach. Some of you may be familiar with our corporate headquarters location there on Clematis, just a couple blocks south of the Chamber building. But this is really meant to show you where the heart of our operations are located in the Everglades agricultural area, with Osceola, as we just mentioned, our first location, the ACE right now, where I'm zooming in with you from Okeechobee, which is south of South Bay by a few miles. And most people would not know, but wanted to share with you as well that we also have a facility in Boca Raton, that conducts technical marketing focus group type work. This is a quick glance of what Florida Crystals is. We're vertically integrated. So from beginning to end, we plant it, we grow it, harvest it, mill it, refine it, package it, and distribute it. And along the way, we also generate enough power that if we were to send it to the general grid, it would power up to 60,000 homes. So that's the size of Wellington, I think Palm Beach Gardens, and the town of Jupiter, just for a sense of scale. You know, each of those cities could individually be powered if we redirected our cogeneration energy from our farm facilities to those towns and those homes. So again, this just gives you an overview of what we do. We are an agriculture, family, farm-based company. Some of you may know the Fung Hools. It's a 7th generation family-owned business, and we employ about 2,000 people, primarily here in Palm Beach County in those different locations that you saw. And it is our 60th anniversary. The bottom left bullet does mention our rice mill. People may not know, and those of you who like to read the news, I'm an avid news reader. A couple of seasons ago, there was a great article about our rice. We have the only rice mill in the state of Florida. Again, east of the Mississippi River. People probably wouldn't normally think about that. Some of the packages or labels that we package our rice under are Goya and Mahatma and Kania. It's white rice, it's brown rice, it's organic, and it's conventional. So I think it's a pretty cool side of our business. As we're winding down right now in sugarcane, the planting for rice has already begun, and the harvest will too. This is a tropical environment that we have in Florida, so that makes it very conducive to growing rice. But rice is really a cover crop. It's more of a sustainability tool. And used in rotation as well as with other vegetables like sweet corn, radishes, and green beans that the company works with other farmers in growing. This gives you a sense of where we are. You know, it's not like my neighborhood where every house or square is perfect. The yellow indicates our different farmlands. We farm about 195,000 acres. You'll see a little bit of yellow towards Indiantown, but really Palm Beach County and the Glades communities is the heart of agriculture, particularly for Florida Crystals. So let's get to it. Inclusive leadership in the workplace. You know, there's so many different aspects on leadership, and I'm going to drill down on just one aspect of it within inclusive leadership. And as you have any questions, please feel free, you know, to share those in the comment box, and we're happy to address them in the presentation. So what is it? I wanted to go ahead and just explain what it is. According to the Harvard Business Review, leadership that assures that all team members feel they are treated respectfully and fairly, are valued and sense that they belong, and are confident and inspired. So I think in a very simple way of remembering what inclusive leadership is, I think it's more about the us, we, and together instead of the me, my, and I. And for me, that's a very simple way. I didn't go to school to study leadership. I feel like I've been through the school of hard knocks in some ways, having been in government, then in the home building industry, which is very male driven, very type A personality, and now in agriculture, which also is a very male driven environment. And then also being a woman and being an ethnic minority, putting those factors, you know, to the side, it still goes back to an attitude and that sense of being heard and having an opportunity, you know, to have that thought, idea, action valued, you know, and respected. So I just wanted to remind everyone on just some key words about that. I think about this in particular, you know, Kirby was very nice to read my bio with everyone. And yes, I'm involved in various organizations, and, you know, there's great organizations and there's great people. And then there are those that have an opportunity for improvement, for change. And I think what that entails is just, you know, a sense of an awareness. And we'll get to that in just a moment. By the way, I forgot to mention, you'll see these parenthetical references with a number, and towards the end of this presentation, I've actually included the references from the articles that if anyone wants to read more upon this, they're brief, but that has most of the material that I'm sourcing from. So here's some examples on the plus side and on the negative side. And I think I'm going to start actually on the right side of the slide. Here's some things that I've heard over the years, in different situations, in different careers, in different industries, by different people along the way. I have this knowledge, I have this experience, I have this, whatever they're going to say, but I am who I am. I think we're all, we've said that from time to time. But this is what I do. This is another, example that contrasts with inclusive leadership. Or this is the way I've always done it, or we've always done it. Or another common phrase that we might have heard or said from time to time is, well, if it's not broken, why are we going to fix it? What needs to be fixed if everything is just fine? Or I already know what to do. Or how about been there, done that? And I think that contrasts going back to the we, us, and together side of inclusive leadership on the left side of the slide. What can we do to improve or innovate? This is a safe space. Sometimes I say that in jest and people will chuckle about it, but I really mean it. When I'm on a team, and you can just read somebody's body language, especially when we're online like this, and you can see these thoughts, that are going through someone's mind or their face or their experience, whether we're in person or online, and just asking someone, well, what do you think? What are your thoughts about this? I think that's a different way of also putting people on the spot because, sometimes people are sensitive to that and the timing and their comfort space to it as well. Did we miss our target or goal? Where can we go from here in our next go around? I think that's different than saying, but this is the way we've always done it. Is there something we have not yet done that we could, or what's keeping us from doing that? Just this constant, evaluation. I don't know about you all, but at the end of the day, I think about what I said, just as I'm sure I will do that at the end of this presentation, and think about what I could have said differently, what I might have said better, or maybe I hit it on the point. So I think it's that internal evaluation within the individual and within the team that happens outward as well. And I think the last example that I just wanted to share with everyone is, what can I, as your team leader or your teammate, do to ensure your work contributions are respected and valued? I think that's probably one of the hardest challenges that we faced in, being online. We actually, in our department at Florida Crystals and Corporate Relations yesterday, had our first team meeting, and it was online. And again, the beauty of it was that people were in different locations, including a coworker in Washington, D.C. And, this exact topic came up. Everyone went through, and even though some of us have worked 16, 17, 18 years, myself, 10 years, we have an intern that just started on Monday. We have a new coworker that started in January of this year. This kinds of question, just giving everyone opportunity, and maybe we'll have that here too with Kirby, to just say a couple words about ourselves and what we did, and just making sure that everyone's opportunity to contribute occurs and has an opportunity to be heard. So according to the Harvard Business Review, from the definition that we shared earlier, these are the traits and behaviors of an inclusive leader. There's 6 of them. Again, the article that is referenced here does go into each one a little bit more. Following this slide, we're going to delve a little bit just into one of these, because this could be a fascinating conversation. I'd like to think with a little bit more time, and maybe we can do this again in the future. But visible commitment, it's the ability to articulate authentic commitment to diversity, challenging the status quo, holding others accountable, and making diversity and inclusion a personal priority. Humility, it's being modest about capabilities, admitting mistakes, and creating the space for others to contribute. An awareness of bias, showing awareness of personal blind spots, as well as those challenges in the system, and working hard to ensure a meritocracy. Being curious about others, demonstrate an open mindset and deep curiosity about others, listening without judgment, and seeking to empathize and understanding those around us. Cultural intelligence, attentive to others' cultures and adapt as required, and an effective collaboration, empowering others, paying attention to diversity of thinking and psychological safety, and a focus on team cohesion. So how do we get there? How do these things happen? What do we do? And I think this particular article that's referenced later on does a really good job of answering that question. And again, I'm a pretty simple person. I didn't go to school for this, but I think it's just how I understand it, I hope makes sense when I share it with everyone here. It's looking outward, the external, just making sure that my team member is okay. Again, they're being treated fairly. They feel a sense of place and belonging, not fit. That perhaps could be another conversation too for another session, but there is a difference between fit and belonging, and making sure our teammates, our work colleagues, and I guess in some cases for those who work with their families, each feel that they have a sense of belonging and they have a sense of authority and that they're empowered. And with that is the understanding of trust. And those results allow people to fly. They allow them to flourish. They allow them to succeed. And that, I think, what I've read in these studies that have done, and even just from a personal basis, is that people are productive. They're willing. They want to come back. They're energized. They're motivated. It's that self-reliance from one person looking externally to others to know and help them do. And then the second part of this on how do we get there in the workplace is looking inward, looking at the individual. And it's hard. It's really, really hard. There have been a lot of hard conversations that people have had, from what happened last summer to, the court case this summer. And I think we've all been having different conversations, whether it's with our family members, our workplace members, our social media, just personal journaling, meditation. And it's really hard to look at ourselves and make changes. But with that ability is being courageous and self-reflecting. So some people think about that as journaling. Some people think about that as self-reflection. Some people think about that as, a personal, professional assessment. I think there's different ways that this can occur in the workplace if it doesn't already. But I think once we have that inner look for ourselves, then those are the traits that help us be more empathetic towards looking outwards. But these are basically the two things that go hand in hand, side by side, to ensure inclusive leadership occurs at work. The next aspect and of the six that we just talked about, I really just wanted to hone in on one, and it's called humility. And I kind of struggled with this when I was putting together this presentation. First, because I feel like I'm saying I a lot, and I just finished telling everybody that this is about we, us, and together. But I think it's the ability to, like we saw on the previous slide, look in and look out, for the self and for each person's space and place within that circle for work in particular. Sometimes I ask my husband or my sister about, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? What do you value more? And I think that in terms of the leadership trait of humility, that's something very important to ask ourselves. And sometimes those are not the same thing, especially when we're in a team or we're working with other people. And even though, I might actually be right, it's more important to get somebody involved in the conversation, the decision-making, the productivity, the process, so that they have an opportunity, because they themselves could be right or have an answer or a piece of that process towards productivity and progress, and then ultimately success. So that's what I wanted to share about being right. Again, there's a whole psychology, and if my sister were here right now with you all, I'm sure she would add some very entertaining thoughts to add to this. I think also about being humble is allowing others to express their thoughts. Again, it goes back to creating that space, and again, I tell, friends, whether I'm texting with work or with family members or, in team meetings, like, it's a safe space, guys. There's no judgment. This is a judgment-free zone, you know? We're not going to judge people for their ideas. There's no such thing as stupid or ignorant or uninformed. It's better to contribute and feel that sense of space to do so than the other way around. But all of that begins and ends with the individual and their recognition as leader or teammate towards that effort. On this particular side of humility as a leadership trait, and particularly as women, you know, this is a little bit of a challenging aspect because we're often told when we're younger and in our formative years, you know, just keep your head down, do your best, and you'll be recognized. And, you know, sometimes that could be misinterpreted for being, I don't know, meek or quiet. And I don't think that quiet is necessarily a negative aspect of leadership, because there are certainly quiet leaders. And there's a lot to be said too on the discussion of extroverted versus introverted. But I think it gets back to the aspect of having a self-confidence, you know, to not feel threatened by others. There was a situation where, from a work perspective, there's, you know, two colleagues are going to go to an agency, but there is a third colleague there that if they were to include that individual, then that individual who might have worked at that particular agency, who has subject matter expertise and experience on dealing with the matters that they are dealing with, you know, could actually benefit the whole project and the workplace and the company's goals. But because one person may not feel confident in including that third, I'm sure we've seen that over our careers time and again, where, you know, perhaps a little bit more self-confidence or confidence in the other person, you know, could actually yield a different journey and a different result, particularly in the workplace. You know, I think I mentioned about gender and how we overcome those aspects, you know, to, you know, just keeping your head down and not saying anything. But I'm happy to share with everybody on a personal experience. I recently had my performance review, and I asked my manager, you know, it was, I think, a very fair review. And at the end, you know, when he asked me, you know, do you have any questions? Is there anything, any thoughts you wanted to leave me with, you know, going forward? I felt the confidence and the courage to say, what can I do to work towards a change of title? So I think it's having that kind of confidence, not just in myself, but in him, to be my ally, to be my advocate with HR and all the different levels that go along with making those kinds of institutional changes. As a woman, I feel that it's my role to be able to do that. I also have learned that if we don't ask, we don't get. And I have been reminded of that throughout my career by this particular manager. Even my dad has told me from the very beginning, don't ask somebody, can you help me? Because they will say no, because they're too busy. But ask somebody, how can you help me? So again, that is an attribute of being humble and recognizing that one needs help, which is not a sign of weakness, but rather a sign of strength. And also engaging that person by not allowing a no. But we're not there if we don't ask. So I think that goes back to the humility, the confidence, and the courage. And sometimes as women, you know, we might discount ourselves or put ourselves at the end instead of being at the table with everybody else. So I'm hoping if there's any takeaway here, if you don't ask, you don't get. And it takes a lot to ask. But the other person may not see it that way, but they will certainly have a little bit more respect, I think. And it goes back to that space of feeling comfortable that's been created to have those kinds of conversations. So I'm pretty much wrapping up here. I didn't want to take too much of everyone's time. I think Kirby had mentioned that this has been recorded, and really just wanted to have a conversation, and maybe we can also do some introductions of everyone briefly. For those who wanted to read a little bit more about these topics and the references that we're seeing here, these are the articles that I had shared. The Harvard Business Review, I think has some great material on this. There's another report here that I shared as well. I personally am starting to dive into this book called Inclusify. I think it's a great book that merges the conversation of diversity and inclusion. That's probably the next step for some organizations. I'm really pleased to say that at a company like Florida Crystals, which might be among the largest Hispanic-owned businesses in Palm Beach County and is extremely diverse, particularly, well, actually, I think fairly so in the office at Clematis to the farms here in Western Palm Beach County among ethnic minorities. I know we could do better in working and trying to reach more women, and I know that's my personal part of the workplace in which I'm trying to assist on as well, because I didn't know what I didn't know. Had I known, I would have probably been the best kick butt welder who was female and saved myself a bunch of student loans and student loan debt that I'm still paying off, and wasn't able to buy my first home until I turned 40 because of that. But I, probably, because as you guys can tell, I like to be around people. And I think that would have been a really good career for me, would have been being a welder outdoors. That would have been really cool. And because I went to Douglas in Parkland, that would have been like a 40-minute drive for me, which is actually shorter than driving from West Palm. But with that said, just wanted to also reiterate to everybody, that we'd love to have you join us, whether it's through the Women in Business Committee or through the Chamber of the Palm Beachers or any other nonprofits or organizations or businesses that you may be involved in, to come visit us in the EAA in Western Palm Beach County. Again, there's no cost to you other than time. And if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts, any comments, I'd certainly welcome those.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Caroline. I love these committee meetings because there is never a doubt that I'm going to learn something new. And, I take away a lot of stuff from these meetings. So thank you so much for your presentation today, Caroline. I do want to open it up for questions. If anybody has any, please feel free to turn on your microphones and ask, or if you're more comfortable, put it in the chat and we will answer those. Caroline, I am going to stop
the share?
Yes, that way we can kind of see everybody and see if anybody's raising their hand. I have some chats. Everybody's saying that this is just a wonderful presentation. Great job. Any questions? Lisa, I see that your microphone is unmuted. Do you have a question?
I actually do. Hi, Caroline. Again, I had the pleasure of actually meeting Caroline. She came to Opportunity Early Childhood Education and Family Center before the pandemic. And then she was so gracious and actually came to visit us during the pandemic and donated to our families and to our employees rice and sugar. And again, thank you so much. That was just absolutely incredible. Looking forward to a follow-up session. But as far as the inclusion and leadership, my question to you is, at Florida Crystals, do they have a mentoring program, or are you thinking about kicking off something like that in order to really drive this home and get more women involved?
That's a great question. I'll answer it externally and internally. Florida Crystals is very involved with Take Stock in Children, and Take Stock in Children throughout the county, including in the Glades, does offer mentorship opportunities. So we have some employees that are involved in mentoring those students who are going to go on to receive scholarships through their local chapter at their school. Interestingly enough, on Monday of this week, we also kicked off internally an employee survey regarding volunteering. The pandemic had put it on hold. We had actually planned to roll it out, had things planned for the month of April with Earth Day, gleaning, hunger relief, conservation type efforts. And then the pandemic occurred and everything was on hiatus until this Monday when we sent out the survey and actually did include specifically mentoring. So now that can be seen as, are we looking for mentors from Florida Crystals to other nonprofits, or are we looking towards having mentors within Florida Crystals? You know, if there's a director to a manager, some of that already is going to occur this summer, like with interns. They're going to be shadowing, they're going to be rotating around, which is a pretty cool topic in itself. But we're at the very beginning of that conversation, Lisa. Separately, or at the same time rather, Florida Crystals also did officially kick off last summer or end of last year, I can't remember right now with my COVID memory, a global diversity and inclusion committee. So I was asked to be on that committee, and I'm working with colleagues that are in Belize and in the UK, Baltimore and California. And they're actually today at 12 o'clock Eastern time, we're making a presentation to our senior management. And some of that does include mentorship. So I think, like I had mentioned before, from a company perspective with ethnic minorities, that's not ever been our challenge in 60 years. Our challenge is more, how do we begin to include women? And some of, I have an office job, but my job is not 9 to 5 and it's not Monday through Friday. So, and I have 2 kids. I have a 10-year-old and I have a 5-year-old. But maternity leave was great. The company was wonderful. It's like a family. But if I'm trying to get a job at the distribution center and it's shift work, how is that going to be accommodated for? So there's all different sides and aspects to that. I'm sorry, it's a little bit lengthy, but it depends on the situation or where that role is. But I'm just extremely proud that the company recognizes that. So I'm hoping after today's global presentation to our 2 corporate executives, because that's the other side to this, is having those executive sponsors, at the executive committee leadership level to be able to advocate, for our group that is saying, these are the things that matter. This is what we'd like to see done, and this is how we think it can happen. We just need your support. Thank you.
Wow. Great question. Great answer. Anything else? Any other questions? Betsy.
I'm curious, Caroline, it's a fabulous presentation. I'm curious what percentage of the leadership at Florida Crystals, what percentage is made of women?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's about 10% in leadership. Yeah. But the visibility of it looks less. And not that 10% is terrific either. It's not, and they recognize that. And I think that that's really where, at least for our company, the global D&I initiative is leaning more towards gender as opposed to ethnic minorities. Because again, given our ownership, people, from different parts of the world that work in agriculture, that's already a given. Again, it's a recognition, and hopefully with this path forward later on today, we can make more changes.
What does change look like when you have 90% of the leadership who are men? Mm-hmm. When we talk about adding diversity and we talk about including more women in those roles, is it that they're adding positions? Because in many corporations, I never see the men saying, I'm stepping aside to have a woman come on board.
Sure.
So when we talk about adding women to the leadership roles, what does that actually look like at that? It's a large corporation, mm-hmm. and if 90% are men, mm-hmm. where are they making the room?
Right, exactly. Unfortunately, it takes time. It takes patience and it takes perseverance. I think that they also recognize their bias. So they brought in an outside consultant to work with our group from the different parts, whether it's shift work or salary, male and female, because we actually were short on male in the global group, and looking at, in our case, for our industry, we looked at another company to see what their pillars were. And they're different, right? They could be things like voter registration. Who knew that voter registration would help enable diversity and inclusion, especially in ethnic minority communities like in the Glades? So simple things like that are actually small wins. But I think those kinds of conversations happen first and foremost in change with the executive sponsor, or in our case, we have two of them, sponsors, one of whom is the VP of HR, and the other one is global operations executive. I think also part of our challenge is that in a company like ours, because it's agriculture, and they have a long view, it's not like IT, where things happen really quickly and there's a research. It doesn't happen like that in agriculture. This kind of business thinks about the next 50 years, the next 100 years. Yes, innovation happens very quickly, but when it comes to people, I think the change is what they're asking us to implement from that global group. There's going to be some small factors, and then there's going to be larger ones. And I remember in the feedback, there were suggestions that our performance management system needs to be reviewed or audited to ensure that women have an opportunity to be promoted. And I think it's that kind of recognition and action that hopefully will help enable that kind of change. And then I also, though, can tell you this. I have been at our company for 10 years. I've probably worn off the new hat, but it's when I have conversations with people, whether it's at the farm or at Clematis, who've been with our company 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, so I think some of this is generational too, to being able to implement change, because they're going to say the common response is, but I had to, start at the bottom, and I had to do this, and then I had to learn my way. And that is this business. That is this business for sure. It's very much about earning your stripes. So if change is going to happen, yes, maybe we need to pick up our pace a little bit, but I think it also takes a recognition from the other person, that new talent, to come in and also realize that just because one has maybe a college degree, for example, and 1 or 2 years under their belt, that they're also not necessarily going to be elevated to vice president. So again, there's a little bit of humility from that side of it that is different, so it's kind of like a whole question with all the different sides to it, because there's so many people involved in that change. And I think it begins with recognition.
Absolutely. Great questions.
Thank you.
I do want to keep the ball rolling. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
Hey, Caroline, how are you?
Hey, Perry. I'm good. How are you?
Good. I've been really fortunate to have had the opportunity to work with Caroline about 4 or 5 years ago, when I was with the Palm Beach County Food Bank. And for the rest of this group, I cannot think of a better representative, not only for Florida Crystals, but for the agricultural community here in Palm Beach County. People don't realize how lucky we are to have someone like Caroline in the role that she's in. And I'd be happy to send a letter in to make your title.
That's very kind. Thank you.
Just as an aside, it's a little awkward to be the only male on this call. We could probably spend another 30 minutes talking why that is, but anyway, I have a question that is an agricultural related question.
Sure.
And that is, I live off of 441 in Delray Beach, just about half a mile south of Piro Family Farm. And it's a very sad for me personally to see all of these for sale signs on agricultural land, including the Whitworths that look like they're getting out of the agricultural business completely. And if you travel up 441, you just see all these for sale signs. Do you foresee the continued shrinkage of the agricultural operations on this side of the county, or is it going to, it's going to sort of, is there a floor to that, or is it just over time just kind of completely go out of business?
I think NAFTA was really the nail in the coffin for that particular corridor. For those who've been here, this area, like Thomas Produce, further down in the South County, used to be very active. Tomatoes were grown. It was called the Agriculture Reserve for a reason. But I think with encroaching development, and the pandemic has really shown, opportunities to come here to Florida. Even before that, there was like 1,000 people a day moving here. And I don't even know what the numbers would be now post-pandemic. It's extremely hard to farm in the agriculture reserve. There's also, complaints that people make, and understandably so. But I remember hearing Mr. Alderman testify at a hearing this past legislative session saying, and he grows organic. He grows organic vegetables, in particular there at his farm and packing house on that corridor. And he said that, the police were called on him. There was a group of residents that were threatening a lawsuit because of a noxious odor. Turned out it was the fertilizer to grow his organic vegetables, which you and I and many other people buy at the grocery store, like Whole Foods or Publix. So we can't have it both ways. Pardon. So I think it's that pressure that particular corridor, because it's become more accessible, is facing. It is an important 22,000 acres of agriculture, but that path was set not because of the county so much, but I think, in my personal opinion, again, I'm biased because I'm in agriculture, but I think it was really NAFTA that sealed their deal, sealed their fate along the way. And it's only been exacerbated by, the problems of prosperity as we have them here in Palm Beach County.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Great question. Okay, so I'm going to ask one more time if we have any other questions, and then I do want to do some self-introductions and get to know each one of you a little bit better, and then that way we can kind of, once we're back in person, we can walk up to each other and say, hi, this is me, I'm in person. I have another half of my body. So yes, if there are no other questions, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to call on Joan. Joan, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company?
Sure. My name is Joan Quittner, and I am with LegalShield and ID Shield, and we offer affordable access to the legal system and identity theft protection if you become a victim. For businesses and families, it can also be a benefit offered by the employer to the employee without costing the employer anything. It can never be used against the employer, very important. We've also added a new thing to our portfolio, which is cybersecurity, that every small business should be very aware of cybersecurity. Do not be complacent, because they're going after your business. You just hear about the pipelines and all that. You don't hear about the small business being disseminated. And it's not just your business, it's your client base also. So we have a solution for that. Nobody can solve the problem, but we can make you aware of the problem so it could be prevented, hopefully. So it's Joan Quittner, LegalShield and ID Shield. I've also been an ambassador with the Chamber for 11 years. And Caroline, it was a wonderful presentation. And I love the line that you said, instead of "can you help me?" and "how can you help me?" I love that. I think that's very, very important for people to know about. Thank you again.
I agree. Thank you so much for joining, Joan. Carla.
Hello, I'm Carla Bryant, and I'm the Director of Development at Palm Beach Dramaworks. And wonderful presentation. Really appreciate it, particularly because we are engaged in a large for us as a small company, hiring right now. We're probably going to be hiring about a dozen folks over the course of the next 4 to 5 months as we look forward to opening in October. So this was actually a very important presentation as we talk about leadership and how to manage and work collaboratively. So certainly appreciate the information. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Carla. And I cannot wait for y'all to open.
Yeah.
All right, Lisa.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Stella, and I'm the Director of Development at Opportunity Early Childhood Education and Family Center. And can't have a bad day when you're around a bunch of little kids, the hugs you get. And now that we're starting to increase the our population and starting to increase the class sizes again, because we had been doing social distancing and individual pods, but we've been able to continue to help our population, the children and their families, by giving a hand up instead of a handout and ensuring that people can work and that their children are well taken care of. So it's just delightful. Again, Caroline, can't wait to see you again in person. It's been a while. And thank you so much for a great presentation.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. Copeland.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Copeland Calmer. I am a business performance advisor with Insperity. We talked a lot today about confidence, about training, about performance management, and that's something that Insperity actually specializes in, everything regarding HR. So if you guys ever need anything or know someone that needs a company that needs payroll, benefits, training, development, I would be your go-to. And Caroline, great presentation. You actually sparked a quote in me that I actually read about yesterday, so I figured I'd share it with you all. It's whatever you are not changing, you are choosing. Whatever you are not changing, you are choosing. So thought of that. Thank you so much again for this presentation, and I look forward to attending another meeting.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining. And I love that quote. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Elizabeth.
Hi, good morning. I'm Liz Kaysen. I'm with the Children's Services Council. Children's Services Council has been around since 1986. We're actually a funder here in Palm Beach County. We fund over 30 different organizations that provide about 50 different types of programs and services to ensure that children are growing up healthy, safe, and strong. And we also partner with many of you all in this county. So I'm very excited to be here today, and great job to Caroline. We've worked on different initiatives in the past, and so it was great to see you today, even if it's virtually. Good morning, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Perry.
Hi, Perry Borman. I'm with a company called Web Author. It's been in Palm Beach County for about 25 years. I've actually collaborated with them over the last 20 or so, and we help companies and nonprofit organizations better manage their data and automate business process through cloud-based portals that enable them to do that. So we're sort of like Salesforce.com, except we're a lot smaller and we're better. And Caroline, great to see you and great job.
All right. Well, thank you, Perry. And we are happy to have men join us on these calls. We don't usually allow men in our Women in Business Committee, but with the topics that we're speaking on, we feel like it is very important to include men in the conversation. So thank you so much for joining us today. Betsy.
Good morning. I'm Betsy Cohen. I'm the Chief Happy Officer at Happylicious, and we deliver happiness in every bite of our edible cookie dough. So we just recently launched jars of dough, which are that side, and they're fun gifts. They're fun just to enjoy and eat on their own. Very boozy centric with 7 boozy flavors and 2 classic flavors.
Oh, wow. I'm going to have to try some of that. So
Definitely.
we will need to get together.
Yes.
Thanks for joining, Betsy. Victoria.
Hi, everyone. Excuse me. Hi, Caroline. Thank you for the great presentation. I am a small business owner. I've been in business 9 years with my small business. It's called Victoria's Luxury Estates. It's a real estate office in Palm Beach Island, and I've been selling real estate now for about 20 years. I definitely look forward to seeing everyone in person. I got all my shots, so I'm ready to go, and I'm very excited to be here, and thank you for having me this morning.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Victoria, for joining. And again, I want to thank Caroline. Thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation today. Again, I can leave this meeting knowing I have learned something new and have taken away some great information and some confidence. You know, that is something that I love that I got from today. So thank you so much, Caroline. I do want to mention that we have some events coming up on the calendar. We have a speed networking event on Tuesday, May 18th. It is our last virtual speed networking event. The next one in June will be in person. So I hope to see you all there. And then we do have our business awards coming up on, it is Thursday, May 27th from 7:45 a.m. to 9:15 a.m. That does actually start at 7 a.m. for the networking before the presentation starts. So what we do is we close the ballroom doors, everybody comes and they drink some coffee and they all network in the big lobby that we have there. So it's a great networking opportunity, and that will be at the convention center. So I hope to see you all there. I believe, Caroline, I will be seeing you there. Are y'all participating with us?
Yes, we are presenting the diversity award.
Perfect. So yes, you can look forward to seeing Caroline and I both at that meeting. So again, Caroline, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you all for joining, and go be brilliant. Have wonderful days and leading on into the weekend. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.